Hello, I'm Alex Mansfield, the host of Manny Talks Shooting, and welcome to another episode. This is the shooting podcast where I talk to individuals all across the shooting industry. We'll talk competition, self-defense, concealed carry. If you like this content, check out our YouTube channel, Manny Talks Shooting. And without further ado, let's get to this episode. Welcome, everybody. Welcome back to another installment of Manny Talks Shooting, the shooting podcast that I enjoy, and I'm a glutton for punishment, but I do enjoy it. So welcome back to another episode. It will be a great one. As always, we talk about the title sponsor, the best sponsor, Go Fast Don't Suck. They make these awesome banners that I have behind me. They make my custom jerseys. They make dry fire decals for your living room that your significant other may or may not like around the house. But go check them out, gofastdon'tsuck.net. In the order notes, tell them Manny sent you. Move on with your day. Without further ado, we are going to talk to someone you may or may not have already heard of, Mr. Drew Maruski. Drew, how are you doing today, sir?
Pretty good. How about yourself?
I'm doing fantastic. Thank you for sitting down with me in this wonderful mid-July day. We're going to have a excellent conversation today, so we'll have a blast. I think the listeners will too, and it'll all be good. I guess I'll preface this saying is, I think the first time I met you, I was 2022 Area 5. I want to
Mhm.
think you and your squad of miscreants. I want to think like. If I remember right, it was like you, Joey Zadek, Dan from D2 Custom, and
Yep.
Patches.
Yeah, the merry band of misfits.
Yeah, I mean, you guys weren't that misfitty, but I will say that your boy Patches sticks out like a sore thumb sometimes.
Yeah, he does. Yeah, he does. He's a
But
good dude, but it's we always like to have fun, man. Our squad when we travel, I mean, it's enjoy the fun. We like it when all the ROs when we come up, we wave and they wave back and smile. I mean, like keep it always good vibes.
oh
I mean,
yeah, well then yeah, you shoot with what? James Anderson? No, not James. No, yes,
yeah,
Ryan
yeah,
Snyder and James Anderson. There we go. Funny story is, what was it? I think we were at Buckeye this year, and I was like, I had a trophy for
for
Ryan
Ryan.
Snyder, but I thought James was Ryan. I'm like, oh, he looks like a Ryan, and then it worked because they were standing right next to each other. But like, there you go.
It's funny because I actually a lot of people think that James and I are brothers or related
Is
just
it
because
because
of like
of the beard?
I guess the beard or like this. I don't know. I
I
mean,
mean,
we're kind of both goofy, but
I mean, I guess it could kind of work. From a distance, maybe, but like
yeah,
two different people.
yeah.
But
I mean, from a distance, I could definitely see. I mean, how that could be like mistaken. I mean, but up close,
so just carry his PCC for him next time. Maybe we'll see what happens.
yeah, I thought about that. Like carry the case and just kind of be him for the day, like trade places. See how
Unless the
that works
match
out.
performance is horrible, and then it's okay.
Yeah, in that case, then it's like, no, we'll pay for
Right, exactly. But I guess I guess we should get into this, but it's all good. You guys are gonna like this show. But anyway, Drew, so the people need like a brief of who are you and how did you get in shooting?
My name is Drew Maruski. I'm from Pittsburgh, PA. Master class carry optics, master class IDPA. Um, I got into it shooting down at the fence in depth in West Virginia. A couple of friends were going down there Tuesday night to they had like a three-stage like USPSA practice and started getting into that. Really liked it, and then found out there were locals near me and started shooting those and got in with a good crowd of people. And then I started doing majors and started seeing how many cool people there are around the country and stuff like that. And I've just been doing it ever since. It's always
So
something you're always, I mean,
yeah, so what got you even to start going to even those practice nights? Like, what said you wanted to go to those? Like, because it can't. For most people, it's not like I'm gonna go practice at something I've never done before.
yeah, like it was actually like I was kind of hesitant on it first because I had originally done like long range rifle stuff like that, and then I had a few friends that just kept going every Tuesday night, and they were like, "Dude, it's fun. Like regardless of whether you suck or whether you're good, like it's just cool. You get to run around, you get to shoot pistols, and it was something they had never done before. And finally, it was getting closer to winter time, and there was really nothing to do. So I was like, well, I'll go down there and try it. And next thing I know, I'm on my way home and I'm ordering a shooter's connection belt and all kinds of stuff because it was just like, this is cool. You know what I mean? And it was just something fun to do like over the winter time. And then kind of started getting somewhat decent at it. And once the spring hit and all the local clubs on practice course started showing up, I saw how close I was to a lot of matches and just started getting into the local scene and started doing that. I bought cheap Canik SFX TP9 and started shooting that originally and been shooting them ever since. But yeah, you're right. I mean, it's definitely not something that, you just look up and you go, yeah, I'm gonna go try and do that because the first time I actually did it, I borrowed a friend's holster belt, Walther PPQ5. Like I didn't even have my own gear. I just kind of borrowed it and said, all right, cool, let's try it. And next, a couple weeks later, I had all my own gear and was really kind of start to fall down that rabbit hole, just like everybody else does.
Right. Yeah. Because I know from my experience personally, it's like I didn't, I found it on YouTube or through the internet. I think maybe it was Instagram. Like, and
Yeah.
then the obsession kind of started growing. I would never have think to go out, do a practice night of all things first and be like, I'm new. But at least, luckily, you borrowed a friend's rig, so that means they probably stuck around with you and had fun.
Well, yeah, it was cool because like I'd always watch Shooting USA like on Sunday mornings. You know what I mean? So like way back in the day, I knew about JJ Racaza and Max Michelle, and I always just thought I was like, man, that'd be cool to do. And then finally, like I said, once I started realizing, like after I got out of a long range rifle, it was like, all right, let's try something different. And I had played tournament paintball like in my teenage years and in my early 20s, and this was kind of the same kind of vibe of running fast, kind of getting to do stuff. And like I say it's just something. It kind of came natural, like it was fun, and I guess just the learning curve of it, all the dry fire, and just how much you can do to really better yourself was kind of. I think it's kind of that cool individual sport in a sense.
Hmm.
I mean, you can be responsible for how far you go and how far you take it, really.
Yeah. I mean, it truly is, and that's the best thing is you don't actually need. Like I know Anderson talks, to be a GM, he didn't ever have to go to nationals, and that's kind
Mm-hmm.
of the cool thing. You never have to leave your local club, so but you can
No,
do all the work really in your basement or in your spare bedroom and do a bunch of dry fire. That's the cool thing about this. It really is you get in what you put it. You get out what you put into it.
well, the nice thing too was the availability. Like being at most of the clubs are about 45 minutes, maybe an hour and a half around me.
Hmm.
Whereas when I did like long range rifle and stuff, you were driving 2 hours, 3 hours sometimes just to find somewhere where there was a match going on. So it was more convenient. Like you said, the being able to do a lot of practice in your basement and doing stuff like that. It's really, 'cause that's like Steve Anderson's book was my first one, that refinement and repetition.
Hmm.
So those first 12 steps was just kind of because like you said, like going on YouTube and starting to research everything. Steve Anderson kept coming up, and then like I said, I got that first book and started doing the drills, and it does work. I mean, it's really the dry fire is very critical to maintaining or even gaining, as I like to
Yeah. Well, yeah. You definitely get. How do I put this? You definitely can lose it without touching the gun, but when it kind of seems like it comes back, like you take a 2 week break, a month break, and it's right back on there after a little bit of dry fire, which is always the cool thing too. Now, yeah, so you were talking a little bit about long range. Now I'm kind of curious, how'd you get into that?
say. Same thing. I had a friend that we were going to McDonald's Sportsman's Club, and they started out with doing it was like a 100, 200 yard match. It was just something pretty plain, and then they said they had a groundhog match that they did once a month. So I was like,
Hmm.
all right, cool, I'll try that. It was a 1 to 500 yard match. It was pretty simplistic. I mean, 5 shots each target, each distance, and then scored points and such. And I started getting into that, and I started shooting 1,000 yards and 600 yard matches, and really that's where I got interested with that because the reloading side of it was always super intriguing to me. But then calling the wind and actually shooting great groups and then actually going and competing, that was when it became really fun because when you do like bench rest, so bench rest style, there's 10 people on the line. They call it, you get a sighter period, you can sight your gun in, and then they hang the target up and you shoot five at it. And it's basically they do either best group or best score. And then whoever has best group and best score out of those two relays, they go into the finals. And then the next relay, same thing. And then they face off against each other in a shoot off. And then it was really cool because at that point it's kind of like how you see the shoot-offs in USPSA. Like there's just two people there, everybody else is watching. It's pretty much whatever your target prints is whoever wins in the finals. And it was fun. Like it was something that like friends were doing. It was something we would kind of travel for. We would go to West Virginia, Ohio, various places like that, and it was fun because it was the same thing. Like once you started getting better at it, it was really cool to see like being able to shoot 5-inch groups at 1,000 yards. When I originally started, I was like, it would just be cool to do that, and that's not even like the best groups. I mean, I've seen people shoot way better, but it was a different discipline. I mean, I'd always shot rifles and stuff growing up, so wasn't new to me, but it was very, very humbling because when you go out there and you're like, oh, I'm gonna do real good, and then you see what other people are shooting, and it's like, okay, I got little bit of work to do. You know what I mean? But it was definitely fun, and it was just basically kind of like whatever friends were kind of getting into. I guess I would just kind of follow a little bit. If it was one of those things where I liked it, I'd stick with it. If it wasn't, just move on to the next thing. And it was
Right.
fun.
Yeah. I would say localish to me. It's 3 hours away, but there's a 2,000 yard range. Well, it's one range with 2,000 yard ranges on it, which
Hmm.
is super big. Like F class competitions and PRS all the time are there. You know, which is cool. And funny enough is I got into practical shooting, and then I found out my next door neighbor, to the south of me, is a PRS shooter, and if Fred, if you're ever listening to us, I doubt this, but I call dibs on all your primers. but but he's a machinist by trade, so he'll do his own barreling and stuff. So it's super cool to see like the hard details that he needs to have in there, and he'll talk about like wind and mirage, and it's like no, I'm good. I'll shoot like 50 yards with a pistol and be okay with that.
Yeah, it was. I was. Easer Precision was my guy that I worked with. James Easer. He was a machinist and also a competitor, and he really kind of took me under his wing for like really learning how to tune a gun and how to tune like a load for it and what works better and knowing the differences, like you said, of the temperature ratings and the barometric pressures and reading the mirage and stuff like that. And then there were various other people that helped along the way, like my one buddy Tom Dunn really helped me learn reloading and like the process of it. It's a marathon. It's not, don't rush it. Don't have distractions like your phone or anything like that. Always double check everything. Especially like in USPSA, you constantly see like squib rounds and stuff like that. So it's like something that Steve Anderson actually kind of he's mentioned it on his podcast and even told me is he'll weigh all of his rounds, loaded rounds, like before a major or something like that, because you'll see a consistency of weight. I mean, with a loaded round, bullet, etc. And if you get one that's 4 grains off or 4.5 grains, and obviously you see your powder charge is missing, set that one off to the side and don't have that be a possible issue. I mean? So it's a
Mhm.
little things like that, I mean, just to stay on the safe side of things. I mean, because reloading is something that, you know, it can be great to do and it can also be very scary if you don't know what you're doing.
Oh, absolutely. Now, I'm assuming you got into reloading due to PRS, the long range rifle shooting, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So, was it a single stage? Was it a progressive or turret?
Actually, for the bench press, F class, PRS stuff, I actually had multiple single stage presses set up.
Hmm.
They would have different various things. I actually used an inline seater to seat my bullets so I could read the PSI on the actual seating pressure because that actually made a difference at 1,000 yards. I mean, with the way that the bullet released and everything. So there was always a very meticulous process. Like maybe, with first night, I would resize the cases. I would anneal and resize them the next night, go through and doing trim work to them, chamfer and clean them up. Then third night, you're doing your powder charges and everything. And then you finally go and load all the bullets, and then you kind of separate them in their PSI charges. And there's a whole like recipe for it that you can just, like I said, it's something where if you want to rush it, your results will show up on the paper. Whereas
Hmm.
if you take your time, I've often like to said sometimes that matches like that are won on the reloading bench, not on the shooting bench, because it's all how much effort you put into everything around the match. I think is very, very helpful.
Oh, I would definitely agree to that. I would honestly agree to that. Like, I definitely know from the time I've spent like at my neighbor's reloading bench, it's like he's got the press, but he's got the little trickler right next to it. Just be like, I need that one half of a tenth.
Oh yeah, I mean, I have an auto trickler that does that where you can set the timing on it,
Hmm.
and then it throws it right down to an exact amount. You know what I mean? Because for bench rest and PRS, like you definitely want to be very consistent on stuff like that. You know, like with pistol, as long as you find your window or you're making power factor, you're pretty good. You know what I mean? But with the long range stuff, you could definitely tell just because, and it would show up more in the chronograph sometimes than it would on the paper. You know what I mean? But realistically, like if I was going to shoot 1,000 yard match, I would go and take my equipment and actually tune a load for 1,000 yards because there would be times where a 600 yard load data wouldn't be as efficient. Sometimes it needs a little bit more powder charge, sometimes it doesn't. But sometimes, there's just little variables the way that the bullet travels past that 600 yard mark to where, you really got to play the differences because some people do load testing at like 100 yards and be like, all right, I'm good with that. But then that'll usually work to like 600 yards. You know what I mean? But if you really want to fine tune it and really get a good load going, especially like for F class, where you only get two sighters and then you're throwing 20 shots, you know what I mean, consistently, you really want to know what that load's doing from a cold bore to a warm bore and how the difference is. Because there's actually a trick to that too of running like the slower nodes as the barrel warms up, because then, they're supposed to shoot slower, but as the barrel speeds up, it actually keeps the same consistency through it. And like I said, there's all kinds of little tricks to the sorcery of making it work, but it's definitely another rabbit hole that if you go down it, it's definitely worth learning, and
Hmm.
it pays off because even like with reloading for pistols now, like I don't get anywhere like as in depth for doing the powder charge and all that, but doing the load development's the same way as I would for bench rest. You know, what I mean, shoot groups through the chronograph, see what the power factor's doing. Once you know you're making great power factor, then you see what the group's doing on the paper. Maybe push the bullet in a little bit just to make sure you got your good feeding on the magazines, and then pretty much go from there.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's a whole science to reloading. It seems like some people are more methodical than others. Like people would be ashamed at what I do to reload. I mean, even with major, you just fill the case full of powder. You scrape it off with the bullet, and you seat it.
Right,
I
right.
mean,
I mean,
and,
but
and then I hand you my ammo and say shoot it through your canic.
yeah, well, dude. Hey, I will say that I have mistakenly done that with somebody else's ammo, where I've shot a few major rounds through it. And I will say it will hold up, but I do not recommend doing it for extended periods of time.
Oh no, that no. Well, especially when you're if you're using the same bullets too, and you're like, oops, the same projectiles
Nope.
don't work.
What surprised me was that it actually seated in my chamber, because a lot of your major rounds they stick out a lot further, and Canics and CZs have a shorter chamber, so it either pushed it back in upon entry, or I don't know, maybe I just got lucky because it was a round nose bullet, but there was definitely a decimal difference when you shot it, and a definite felt recoil difference.
Oh
So it was,
yeah, absolutely. Oof, that'd be spicy, especially through that polymer gun. It might turn
yeah,
it might turn into a SIG and blow up on you.
that's what I was gonna say. It's luckily held up, but I would not condone like trying to test the theories of that
Oh
because you
yeah,
will know.
yeah. So so now I'm curious. So you don't use a single stage to reload your pistol ammo, do you?
No, 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 no.
That
No, I
would
gotta.
take forever.
Oh yeah, I'd still be loading for next week's match.
Yeah.
I have a Hornady lock and load progressive press setup. So I use that for my pistol stuff. It was originally I got it for like loading 223 and 556, and then never really loaded much 556 or 223 with it, and then got some 9 millimeter dies, and that's been that. But
Right. So, so originally when we started talking, you were talking about practice nights in West Virginia.
hmm,
I'm assuming you live in Pennsylvania or do you live in West Virginia?
I live in Pittsburgh, PA, so
Oh,
yeah, that's
okay.
like it was that was like the only indoor match during the winter time. And
Hmm.
like I said, my buddies were driving down, so all I had to do was drive 10 minutes to their house and jump in a
Park.
car and
Okay.
good. Yeah, you know what I mean. But once the springtime kicked off, like we have like right in near where I live, you have Lawrence County, East
Hmm.
Huntington, Greater Pittsburgh, Pitcairn, Monroeville, Pardo. Gem City, DSS out in Ohio. It's about 2 hours or so. Scott puts on great matches there.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, like just seeing how many places I could shoot, it was like every weekend you could literally shoot two different matches if you wanted. You know what I mean? Like it was almost like that. It was almost kind of spoiling. You know what I mean? Like I was like, yeah, man, I can shoot everywhere if I want. And that was what made it nice, was because once I saw how close they were, you know what I mean? You could just go and shoot there. And then I said I could drive up somewhere Sunday and shoot somewhere else, and just got as much experience as I could with the live fire. You know what I
Right.
mean?
Mm-hmm.
Just meeting different people and just actually, like I'd go, I think my first match ever, I think was at Clarendon Sportsman's Range. And they're like, "You bring ammo for the afternoon?" I'm like, "Nah, man. I just figured it was the morning match." They're like, "No, no, we shoot the afternoon too." I'm like, "Oh, cool." So next, and then they told me about the next match they were going to the next weekend. So I was like, "All right, I'm gonna make sure I bring ammo for both morning and afternoon since they run them." And I kind of figured out real quick too when they asked me to shoot the afternoons because they want people to help break down, which I'm cool with. I mean, because it's a
Mm-hmm.
volunteer thing. But like I slowly picked up on it, where it's like, gotcha. You know what I mean? But yeah, it just started to become just like a snowball effect. You know what I mean? Just started shooting here, then here, and then
Mm-hmm.
just everybody be like, "You coming here next week, or are you going here?" And like I said, it was super fun just because the crowd that was around, and everybody's always willing to help you out. And you know what I mean? A lot of good places, a lot of good variety of stages too. You know what I mean? So you wouldn't just have one place. You go out and test your skills on different things. Different match directors do different things with stages. You know that.
Oh yeah, absolutely. So speaking of that, when you got in, um, what was your training regiment like when you kind of first got started?
Lots of dry fire. Lots of dry fire. Um, like I said, Steve Anderson's book was one of the first ones I got. Really just became comfortable with the gun. You know what I mean? Having it draws, reloads, and not trying to push speed at first. It was more of learn fundamentals, learn good reps, as Steve says, acceptable reps, and just keep working at it and working at it. And using the par times helped too. Like in his book, it talks about dropping the par times and getting
Mm-hmm.
down to the limit of human function. So at first it was a lot of that, and then I would use like the Tuesday nights for some live fire, and then we'd go, shooting a single bay for a little bit just to kind of do group shooting, strong hand and weak hand stuff, just to become comfortable with the gun and knowing what to do. And then dry fire was a lot though. Like when I first started, man, I would do probably 2 hours. Like I would just kind of nerd out on it with because there was just so much I could learn. I'm like, all right, cool. I'm gonna try and load starts now, and I'm gonna do table starts, and now I'm gonna do reloads. And now I can do transitions or box drills, or there was just so many different things, and I wanted to like Hansa Kim said it best. You can learn by researching and I mean the studying other things and learning what people do and what's sufficient for you because you can't imposter other people. I mean, you can take things from what they do, try to make it to your own style, but you have to make it your own thing. You know what I mean? So, and I think dry fire really, really helps you, but you got to be honest with yourself. You know what I mean? So, like, if you're trying to work really fast reloads, and then you just, get the gun back up and do a quick trigger pull. Like, did you actually see your dot? Where was your dot? What was it actually doing? You know what I mean? So, that was a big thing. And then once we got into like doing the locals a lot more, started becoming friends with people and was finding people do like live fire practices and stuff. And every chance I could, I'd start going and practicing with people and just trying to learn more. And I was super okay with making mistakes, you know what I mean? Because that way, the constructive criticism of other experienced shooters, I'd just take those notes and just run with them and anything I could learn. And then after a while, I took a Steve Anderson class, and that was super beneficial because he really helps you learn how to be your own instructor, how to really kind of focus on your positives, address any negatives or inefficiencies that you have, but create solutions for them. You know what I mean? Like don't dwell on them, stuff like that. And it's always a progression. You know what I mean? There's never like when you learn something, there's something that somebody else is critiquing on what you just learned. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? So there's always something that can be learned. And that's what I kind of love about this because you can go, okay, I'm really good at reloads now. All right, well now do moving reloads.
Hmm.
how are you at that? I mean, and it's crazy because you can get dry fire so much to where you think you're getting benefits, but then sometimes you might not be. You know what I mean? But it's like don't burn yourself out on it to where it's like, all right, I got to do this just because I have to. Like there's times where I don't feel like dry firing because I've had a long week of work, like today. You know what I mean? Like I'm whooped, man. I'm gonna hang
Hmm.
out, relax, and just be ready tomorrow. And but it's definitely fun, man. It's like a lot of people I hear they'll say like dry fire is boring. Well, losing's boring too, right? Yeah, I mean nobody likes losing, so it's like take your option. Like I'd rather try to progressively learn and pick something up in dry fire. It's going to help me get better than just keep kind of running the same monotonous. You
Right. Well, yeah. I mean, I have the inevitable syndrome of being the bridesmaid currently. Like, and and it's not that I don't have the skill to win or win my class or division. It's always these little inconsistency problems that you get that cost you a match. Like me having having bad habits from shooting a Glock and doing terrible reloads with the Glock had me lose B class open at this major I shot last weekend. So I mean, and then so my coach said, "Hey, you need to fix these reloads," and so that's what I did yesterday. I worked on these
know,
reloads. It was either static reloads and then moving reloads, and there's always something to learn, but sometimes
mm,
there is information overload, or you're just going through the motions, so you might as well just put the gun away. Like, and I don't know about you, my forearms aren't that strong to dry fire more than maybe a half hour, like uninterrupted, if I'm
mm.
actually gripping the gun right. And that's always been something too, is I've got to be honest with myself in dry fire, like after a reload or during the draw, did I have enough good support hand grip pressure, or is that round just not even on the target because I saw a dot but I pulled the trigger and there was nothing to support it.
Yeah, I mean you're absolutely right because it's like what you explained, right? Like trying to grip the gun like you would in a match. If you realistically look at, there's only like what 4.5 minutes that we actually super grip the gun at a major. You know what I mean? It's
Hmm.
you shorter than that. So what I normally like to do is I'll kind of break that up into 1 minute increments through my dry fire. So
Hmm.
I'll make it to where like I have to have that grip that I would hold in a match for 1 minute. I'm either doing transitions, hit reloads while I'm doing that because, like you said, am I being honest with myself? Because I think in dry fire, people will start, like you said, going through the motions and they'll become lackadaisical on the grip, and then it'll start to show up in live fire when all of a sudden either the gun's moving around or, like you said, you're starting to feel more fatigue or something like that. So it's I mean, you're absolutely right. Like if you get like a great 15 minutes for your reloads, you're getting good imprints, everything works out well. Awesome. Walk away from it. It's like the casino theory, right? Like if you're ahead and you're winning, just get up and walk away for a little bit, go have some dinner, you know what I mean? Watch a
Hmm.
movie, you know what I mean? Think about what you want to do, you know what I mean? Then if you're wanting to do more, you know what I mean? Put it back. And I'll do that too. Like there's like some nights I'll work a lot of movement. I mean, where it's like reacting to the beep, getting into a position, kind of observing like what the times are, like what's realistically capable of doing, what's not, you know what I mean? And then other nights I'll do like if I've had a long work day, I'll just do a lot of stationary stuff where it's unloaded starts, reloads, you know what I mean, or turn draws or surrender starts or just stuff that people often don't do a lot or they overlook, you know what I mean? But like you said, like if I want to just put a good 15 minutes in, I'm going to dedicate it to surrender starts and unloaded starts. You know what I mean? Because it's like, okay, I don't have to go fast. I don't have to rush, not a lot of intense movement, but work on just good fundamentals, just good reps of just, okay, meet the mag here, get it. So I use the Burkett reload uh, drill for unload starts, for reloads. I do actually use that for a lot of different things because it's that two beep theory. You know what I mean? Like on the first beep, get the mag to the gun, second beep, rack and go. Same thing with reloads. And it's good because you don't have to put a lot of time in to get great results. But
Hmm.
like you said, you got to have it to where you're being honest with yourself. So even like in dry fire, it's a Rob Epifina tip that I actually got from him, was pinky finger or pointer finger. So when you're doing your reload, when you're walking through a stage, right? Like if you know your pinky and your pointer finger are in that general area, you know that when you go for your reload, at least body indexing and muscle memory is going to have you in the general area, and you obviously stare at the mag well a little bit to make sure and confirm, but even in your dry fire, like when you're doing your walkthrough, like he talks about doing that, where mimic the same motions that you want your body to do after the beep. Because once the beep goes off, the body just does whatever it wants. You know what I mean? It's
Hmm. Well, and it's going to go on that last known repetition you've had, that last short-term memory, short-term, perform, well, not perform, so short-term image, I guess I'll call it as that, of what you had in the stage plan. Did you fully memorize? Like, something for me lately now is I've been working on my visualizations.
mhm,
One, I used to not hardly be able to get enough visual reps, or it's like I don't give enough prep time between being the on deck shooter, or the in the hole shooter, to it's time to shoot now. Like, it's always,
right.
oh, I got to go pace these targets, or I'm running the timer, or whatever. But now I'm figuring out, you got to step away enough, get enough mental reps. Um, I'm not one of those like Max Michelle kind of guys who takes up the whole bay and does like mock
Yeah.
walkthroughs. Um,
Mhm.
Usually because most bays don't have the space for you to do that shit either.
Yeah, it's most times you don't have that, but at least you. 'Cause I actually followed Max and him around a little bit, and he does. He stays very dedicated in his visual reps. Like when other people are shooting, he doesn't watch them shoot. Like I just kind of observed him. Like I didn't bother him or talk to him, but just observing like what the super squad guys do and like how they manage their match. He stays very just working his targets, working his arrays, like what you're talking about, getting those visualizations to where it's almost like he's like the side seat driver. You know what I mean? It's kind of like, all right, once that beep goes off, I'm just kind of here, kind of just overseeing everything, making sure everything's going as, like you said, that last rep was. And I think that's very beneficial because the more reps you get in, the better off. You know what I mean? Because like all the targets are still going to be standing right where they were when you did your walkthrough. The variable is you. You know what I mean? Me. That's where the variable is moved. That's if you're out of position, you're in position. So many different things of if if the gun's too low, come in this position, or various things like that. There's a lot of things we're getting. Like Steve talks about that. We're getting 20 visual reps of your stage. You know, in your head like that is super beneficial to having very consistent runs. And the thing is too is like I think that's where some people get upset or not upset, but they have this like assessment of what they want to do, and then the final evaluation is like, oh well, I screwed this up and I did that wrong. But one inefficiency on a stage isn't bad because if you look, it's like, oh, I shot all great points. I didn't take any penalties. My reload was great. My start, but I mean, a lot of people actually overshadow all the great things they do with one small mistake. And like you said, it's one thing where you can go home and sometimes dry fire. You know what I mean? People are like, oh, I missed my reload or I missed that on load start. Dry fire. You know what I
Hmm.
mean? So, it's failing is your first attempt in learning. You know what I mean? And this is called practical shooting. It's not perfect shooting. You know what I mean? So
Hmm.
it's realistically be practical and know what you're doing.
Right. Well, and I even know as we hear Steve will talk about, the yeah buts, right? Everyone's got that guy who's a yeah butt, and if you can't find the good things in your runs, you might as well just hang up the gear and sell your guns, because there's no.
Yeah, yeah. It's just like you're totally avoiding the dopamine release in your brain from getting to shoot guns on your day off. You know what I mean? Like
Hmm.
there is no bad stage. Like the only thing you'll hear dumpster fire. You know what I mean? That's another great term. People say, "Oh, I had a dumpster fire of a stage." Did you get DQ'd? No. Okay, well that's not a dumpster fire. You know what I mean? Like
Hmm.
I consider like if you get DQ'd, it's like, oh, okay, all right, we can throw that one in the trash. That sucks. But shoot a no shoot. Hey, everybody does that. You're making a mistake or standard reload. It's just hey, it happens. You know what I
Hmm.
mean? It's part of the game.
Right.
Part
And
of
then,
that.
hitting a no shoot is, well, it's either it's in your mental focus of the no shoot, the no shoot, the no shoot, or it's you didn't have enough visual patience on that target to call your shots into the alpha or center of available brown
Mhm.
on a partial. So.
Or the best thing, like if somebody prior, like if you're watching somebody shoot and you're on deck, right, and you watch them shoot that no shoot, all of a sudden, if you're watching that, your brain is gonna, like you said, that's like your last imprint before the mat, before you run the stage. That's why it's just good to not watch that stuff because then if people come, oh that no shoot that hurt, that was like cool man. But if you stay focused, like if you look at that double stack and go two alpha on the bottom, and I'm gonna focus my dot right on that perforated A, right by the Charlie line, keep myself away from the white to where I'm not even really viewing it,
Hmm.
and it doesn't even really become an issue. I mean, the second day at Nats, my first stage, first target, just clipped the no shoot, like just barely got it. It was an alpha no, two alpha no shoot. And everybody, oh man, that sucks. I'm like, hey man, whatever. You mean like first stage of the day, you can't sit there and just let yourself go loose because of one inefficiency when you still got a whole day of shooting left to do. You know what I mean?
Right. You've got so much ground still to, to make that
Right.
the 10 points down isn't going to be the end of the world. Now, if it was 10 points down on a 10-point stage, you'd have a very big problem because you'd get 0 points on the stage.
Yeah. Yeah, that's where it hurts. But yeah, I mean, and I always like to think, like if I'm having a few inefficiencies, I know other people are probably going to, and if they're not, then they're the better competitors. You know what I mean? That's really how it breaks down a lot. Where be humble in defeat as you would in victory. You know what I mean? Be able to walk over and congratulate whoever wins. Tell them they did a great job, and just focus up for the next match and just move on. You know what I mean? There's a difference. I see a lot of people where some people will go, oh, I'm not in this to be competitive or this and that, but then they're checking their scores or they're trying to do this, but then it's just be real with yourself. You know what I mean? We're all learning in this, so there's nobody that's truly, as they say, mastered the sport that we're in. I mean, we have the master theory, but everybody is still always learning. You know what I mean? So,
Hmm. Well, and it's not like everybody, and there's nobody, even Graffel has not shot all the points, no penalties, the fastest, right? There's always improvement to be made in practical shooting.
right.
Because, I
That's why I
mean,
love calling it practical, not perfect. You know what I mean? It's practical shooting, not perfect shooting. If you want that, go do bullseye.
but then you even got to be really perfect because you can't miss.
And see, that's why like long range. That was one of those things where it was like you had to be kind of like right on the money. Like it was F class. There'd be some people they would use that whole 20-minute string to shoot all 20 shots. And there was people
Hmm.
like me where if it was the same wind call and I could keep seeing the same hit, I'll send them as fast as as fast as I can with good accuracy and efficiency. But everybody has their different, like you say. I mean, it's the top elites in the world have never shot a perfect match. I mean, there's people that the theory goes, right? You can win a major and never have a stage win.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? That's the beauty about the sport.
Well, what is it like? Nils came in second with 0 stage wins at nationals this
Yeah.
year, but
Prime example.
he's consistent. That's his best thing.
And
So
that's
I
true. Yeah. The
Go ahead.
consistency the consistency is what wins in a long marathon of a match like that.
Hmm.
Yeah. But that's definitely yeah.
Hmm. Yeah, so I figured it. Well, at least for my level, is I feel if I have a certain level of visual patience, my consistency is higher. You have less my like if you long as you keep visual patience and you don't, as I put it, don't shoot like an asshole. That's
Mm-hmm.
how you lose matches, is shooting like an asshole. But
Mm-hmm.
with the good visual patience, you'll have less mics and you'll do a lot better, and your consistency will go up. That's just really what it comes down to. I mean, and sometimes you're the one in a million. You absolutely got a perfect double, and there's no way to find it, and then you get a mic when you don't deserve one. But those are very
Yeah.
few and far between.
And yeah, I mean that happens where it's like there's those mystery mics as people say or stuff like that. But like you said, like having the visual patience, like everybody thinks, oh, that means slowing down. No, it doesn't mean slowing down. It says, okay, I'm just making sure my dot's right where it needs to be. You know what I mean? Where if it's like you said, 'cause and but the thing Steve and I talked about a lot was there was 52 pieces of steel at Nats. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
So every mic that you have on steel, every makeup, right, could possibly be 1 second added to your time. You know what I mean? So like just thinking about, like you said, like the efficiency of being like, okay, I'm gonna be 1 for 1 on all the steel, 1 for 1 on all the steel. Now don't slow down, right, to where you're kind of like trying to dial it in, but you know what I mean, make it to where it's like don't rush it, don't try to tense up, and it's
Mhm.
actually faster. You know what I mean? When you say patience, people think, oh, that means slowing down, but in reality, when you see the timer, it's actually faster.
Yeah, because and I was watching over where I shot a major last weekend. And I was watching over a buddy's video he sent me, and I'm like, "Yeah, those makeups on steel stuck, but it's not your sights. Your sights are zeroed. It's your trigger. It's your grip and your trigger finger." And people don't realize that. It's like if your grip shit, like even with an open gun, you still have to have a good grip.
Hmm.
Even though the gun's heavy, you still gotta have a good grip and press the trigger to the straight to the rear, or it's gonna get jerked off every time. Doesn't matter how good the trigger is. I mean, 2011s have great triggers. You
Right?
still got to have good fundamentals.
It's the same thing I say with people like when you're driving, right? I mean, you can drive with your knee or
Hmm.
you can drive with your hands. Now, granted, everybody can kind of get away with driving with their knee, but you're not going to be going through tight turns or anything like that. You have to be able to guide and grip the steering wheel, right? I mean, even if it's just that little bit, you have to grip it enough to be able to manage and maintain. It's the same with gun. That's where like dry fire. Like if you're not honest with that grip, that's where it starts to really show up. Where it's like, oh, well, the makeup's on steel. Well, that's because your grip on the fourth shot, you finally went back to what works or what should be working,
Mm-hmm.
and that's the difference of where dry fire and live fire has their that's where you'll see because the fundamentals of everything not shooting is what's great for dry fire. But then I
Mm-hmm.
think for grip and trigger work, you need the live fire. I mean, you need to feel. I mean, they have those dry fire, the cool fire thing, or whatever it is, but nothing is going to simulate the same recoil pulse as just a live round. You know?
Right. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and definitely. And I have not, I don't think I've quite seen a called makeup on steel yet. Usually they are dirt makeups or
Mhm.
ding fairy makeups. When you know hear the ding, you're like, what the hell?
Yep.
But yeah, it's steel.
Well,
One
that's
on
the one.
one for steel is good.
Well, and that's the thing because that's for like watching the Super Squad guys. Like day one, there were makeups on steel. Day two, they really dialed in and really were going one for one because they were starting to see the differences of those tenths adding up as the day would go on. Granted, like day one was real rainy, but day two, like I said, everybody kind of dialed it in and really made sure that they weren't just, like you said, throwing those hopers or looking for the dirt makeups. And because some of those shots on the one zone, they were like 34-yard poppers if you took them from that one back box, like some of the people were doing. I mean, you could either go up front and shoot them up there from like 12 yards or 7 yards, and then people were taking them from the back corner as long like 31-yard shots on mini poppers, and it's a risk reward thing. It just shows to show you who practices on steel, who's confident on it, and that's really a game changer, I think, in a lot of places.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. And even like on stage, what 20, the three Doritos stage, as everyone called it, right? You know,
That's
you
yeah,
had some people are either going to the front box, like JJ and Max go to the front box, or the rest of them decide to pretty much shoot it from the back. But
yeah. I mean, I went to the front box on that stage because we were in heavy rain that day. I was already just wanted to just give myself the best confidence, and I knew that my foot speed could keep me in the realm of reality. What hurt was the makeups on steel, and then the one steel didn't fall.
mm,
And I was gonna call for calibration, and I'm like, you know what? I know where this is gonna go. It's gonna fall. I'm not gonna waste time with it. But the rest of the day, and then day three, I told myself there will be absolutely no issues with that. Like we're not gonna even be worrying about calibration. Like you're gonna make sure, as you said, like you're calling great shots, and if it slows you down a little bit, I don't like to say it's slowing down, it's gearing down. You know what I mean?
mhm.
Just dialing it back a little bit instead of, and that's realistically what I think a lot of people have to realize. Like sometimes, and me especially, like, dude, if I try to over try, or if I see somebody else doing something, open gun guy or whatnot, it's like, all right, yeah, I can do that. I can shoot that fast, but am I printing the same points? You know what I mean? And that's the difference of really knowing your throttle control for stages. You know what I mean? That's for a lot of people, like on far targets, that strong hand stage. That was another one where we shot that in the rain and everybody was just complaining about, not, I wouldn't even say complaining, but you could definitely tell the rain was not everybody's friend. You know what I mean? But it was just like, you know what? Do what you got to do. And I've shot in the rain before. That's one thing Steve said with like train in every kind of condition that you're going to see.
Mhm.
Same with Bill Drummond said the same thing. Like, practice everywhere, anything, make practice as harder than what you're going to see. The day one, I didn't really mind the rain. I mean, I'm not gonna lie. By the end of the day, my feet were kind of squishy, and I was definitely ready for dry clothes. You know what I mean? But it was definitely a learning curve of the mental game
Mhm.
because the stages weren't difficult. I mean, they were challenging. I don't want to say they weren't difficult. They were challenging, and they had to be very technically soundly ran. And I just chose that day. I was like, just push a good pace, maintain. You know what I mean? Don't do anything crazy. There's a lot of puddles. Traction isn't the best today. Just man, just have a good solid first. That was my first Nats ever. So,
Mhm.
for me it was just whatever happens, happens. But it was one of the things where I think that's a huge thing that people sometimes overlook is the mental game. You know what I mean? Being mentally sound. And like, have you ever shot a local where they shoot the afternoon and people take that break in the afternoon, people kind of, you know, just lollygaggle around or they're not really trying or not, but then that translates into majors. You know what I mean? Like, after you come off a lunch break, are you mentally focused on what you're getting back into? You know what I mean? Are you ready to do that? Because you'll see that. I mean, I think that affects a lot of people, and they overlook that. It's kind of like they start looking at other things, and realistically, it's sometimes like, what was I doing on that day? Like, like you have bad penalties early in the day. Was there somebody on your squad that you really weren't getting along with? Not I mean getting along, but I mean just negative people or whatnot. You know what I mean? Like, there's a lot of different variables other than just shooting the gun.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, there's definitely a bunch of variables and like and I'll even speak just for myself. It's the fact that like my mental like phrase or mentality for the matches, I shoot my best when I just have fun today. And
Mhm.
that's what I do. I try to squad with my friends or people I enjoy who aren't negative Nancy's and it definitely makes the day better and you can shoot to your ability as long as you
Mhm.
have that mental focus on you need to realize you need to have fun here, but you also need to realize the fact that you still have to shoot a match and shoot to win.
Right. I think too, man, like being a great squad mate, you become a part of other people's success. So even if you're not having the best match, if you're being a good delegate for a squad mate, or if you're helping out, you know what I mean, or it's something like that, there's always benefits that can be taken away from it. You know what I mean? So it's because not everybody has a great match. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
Every day is not going to be a win, but how often, you see all the greats, like if they don't win, they go home and they start training hard. You know what I mean? It's almost like they see the lessons that they were served at the match, and now they know exactly what to do and how to approach the situation for the next match.
Right? Yeah. And they know what to work on. Like Max Michel already has a list of probably 40 things that he's going to work on between now and whatever his next match is. If that's his nutrition or his mental fortitude throughout the day of being long hot days or rain, or if
Right?
is it going to be double stacks at 35 yards because he wants to, or he's already got a plan and he's gonna go work on it. Just like Christian Seiler is gonna go and dominate something, whatever he's gonna do, he's gonna go find he's gonna reflect, he's gonna then dominate again.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. It's that mindset. I mean, you look at JJ, right? He had that squib at Nats and still maybe I think it's top 16, I think it was. I mean, even
Yeah.
after zero on 120 round stage. So it's like there's a true test of mental focus and getting yourself back into the game. You know what I mean? Because that's something that, I mean, you don't ever expect that, especially like the super squad guys. You know what I mean? For a squib round like that, but you see how it's just he didn't. I mean, you saw how it affected his day, but then it didn't affect his match. I mean, it affected it, yes, but he still set a new goal, right? Maintain mental focus and pushed on. I mean, I'm sure everybody has their like, oh man, that sucks, but it's to make the best of the situation. I mean,
Oh.
your
Mhm.
finish is going to be somebody will switch places with you 100 times over. You know what I mean? So it's always be happy with the results, but always be wanting to try and do better the next time you're out. Type theory.
Mhm. Yeah, absolutely. That's all you can hope for is just do better the next time. Yeah. So I do want to switch our conversation a little bit over to a couple major matches. Well, first I want to talk about the Buckeye Blast because that was the first match at Cardinal that you shot,
Mm-hmm.
and you kind of got to lay of the land. Like I told Jay Beal, you need to come to Buckeye Blast in May because then you can see the range, you can visualize it because we all know he's big into visualization of like he's done some kooky shit with like using YouTube to visualize the world shoot here. Like
Yeah.
so I told him like you need to be there, you need to shoot and the cash kind of made it up too because I think he won some cash coming in second at that match. But now that being the Cardinal Center's first major, how did you think that match went?
I think it went pretty smooth, to be honest. I mean, the Buckeye Blast was well ran. I liked the stages. Um, it was different shooting into the bullet traps and stuff,
Hmm.
but it. I mean, I guess the only effect was like having to percussion a little bit, but other than that, the layout's beautiful. Like parking is ample. You know, what I mean, it's not like there's a shortage of parking. The bay sizes were nice. Um, I did like there's the traction. Like I said, the gravel was a little bit loose in spots. You know what I mean? But that you can have that at any range. You know what I mean? It's just be mindful of the traction. They definitely have deeper bays, so you're definitely gonna have the bigger. Because I did the same thing like you said with I guess Jay did. I shot Buckeye because I had never shot Cardinal before,
Hmm.
and I didn't want Nationals being the first time. So I did the same thing. Like it was a lot of research and development for me. Just seeing how far the bays are from each other, the size of the bays, what you'd be encountering and stuff like that. But all in all, I think it was well ran. Dan was great about everything, and I liked it that it had a good variety. You know what I mean? Like there was definitely it wasn't just focused on one thing. I mean, like you had
Hmm.
your mix of stages and everything like that. And I liked the visual start. That was a pretty cool one from there, having
Hmm.
the visual start and then the strong hand weekend stuff. And I think that's good to have those standard stages that they call it with the weekend strong hand because you realistically see how everybody reacts. I mean, even like watching Super Squad guys, like I mean, unless you're JBO and guys like that are really working on generally you can see where some of the weaknesses or where people don't focus as much and stuff. But all in all, I liked Buckeye Blast. I thought it was a great match. Being that I was only 3 hours away was also nice and convenient. Um,
Hmm.
but all in all, I think it was great. Like getting to shoot all three zones at Nats was fun too because I didn't really. They were still building. I think it was Zone 3 when we were there for Buckeye.
Yeah, they're throwing more gravel down on the up there for sure because I definitely needed it.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, like it was like I said, it was cool because just getting to see everything, and then it made me more excited for Nats. You
Hmm.
know what I mean? Like seeing the layout of it and seeing the way they were going to do things. It was cool because Nats had a good vibe to it, and same with Buckeye. Like you had almost two different matches inside one match. You know, what I mean, and I say that like in a good way because it gives you a good variety and a good breakup in between. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
Because if you get one where it's just too much, it's like all right. But I don't know. I liked it. I mean, I didn't. I had no complaints on anything like that, and instead of even like after I shot Buckeyes, I stayed and watched Jay and them shoot for a little bit before I left, and I was still able to be home by dinner time that day. So
Hmm.
Cardinals a good thumbs up in my book.
Right. Now you mentioned the visual start. Now I've got personal opinion. I do like visual start, but I would have felt better if it was on like a field course, like a medium course, instead of the like I would have loved you put it on the corner of a wall, like you stand where you can see the corner and it blinks
Mhm.
at you, and then you go run. Um, and because really, if you didn't react super fast to that blink on that type of stage, run to the box, shoot the strong hand we can, it definitely could kill uh, that stage essentially.
Oh
'Cause-
yeah, your raw times. That
Mhm.
reaction to that light was. I'm kind of with you on that. Like I would have liked to seen it too, be like on a bigger, like you said, a medium course maybe. But I think for that stage, that's what gave it that little bit of a challenge. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Because you get it done where if you just had like a table starter from behind there with a beep, I mean, everybody's so prone and used to the beep
Mhm.
that, and that little LED light bar was very small. So like you really had to be kind of staring at it because it was only that 3/10. So like you said, if it went off and you weren't paying attention, like you said there were some people that were standing there just kind of staring at it, and all of a sudden they realized what was going on. But I think it would be good in other spots like that. You know what I mean? Like I would even think like you said, like a small forest fire where you have a couple activators. Like remember the one was last year's Nats where there was the four activators and then the four swingers. And
Mhm.
I think something like that would be kind of cool because then it's like it makes you focus on something and then you've got to focus on a bunch of other things at the very fast paced type setup. But
Right, something different, but yeah, I agree. No, I liked
yeah,
it. I was working that match, so that was always that's always fun to go there and definitely have a good time with that kind of stuff. And I'm excited for what Cardinal has in store. I'm hoping that people's criticisms of the range from Carry Optics Nats gets uplifted with Iron Sight Nats.
Mhm.
Which I don't think anything was wrong with the facility for the Nationals. I think it was purely a lapse of judgment in stage design or stage putting them on the ground. Because even for me, like you could tell me if I'm right or wrong, but looking at some of the videos people posted, there were so many stages that felt the same at Nationals.
So yeah, some of them had the same kind of vibe. Like that one was a start stick where you go to the left side. I know there were two stages where I had the kind of same starts like that. Really, I mean, I don't know, like the stages weren't bad, but it definitely, I know I had favorites. Like I think it was stage one on zone one, where it was the seated start with the table, gun on table, unloaded. That
Mm-hmm.
was a really fun stage because that was a completely different breakup, a little bit of retreating involved. And really, I mean, you got to work with what you have for the beige. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like the matchbook, I never really focus. The matchbooks, I focus on the starts, and then where I'm gonna probably do like a reload, or where a reload would be relevant or possibly efficient. Because when we got the Nats, I think there was only two or three stages that actually looked like what they were supposed to in the matchbook. You know what I mean? So it's
Mm-hmm.
like and that's the thing too, because not everything that gets put on the ground is going to be the same as what you print on the paper at home. You know what I mean? Like just because you look at it here, it looks okay, but then when you get down here, it's like, no, we can't do that, or that's a shoot through, or we got to move this over here.
Right. Like I was talking to so David did that show with Riley Bowman, right? You remember that one?
And
And halfway, like 10, 15, 20 minutes into them talking, I messaged him and I'm like, David, the matchbook looks nothing like what's actually possible on the ground.
mm-hmm.
And he's like, oh, really? Yeah, dude, the bays are not that wide. Now, if the bays were that wide, ooh, Cardinal would be
Different story.
like, Cardinal would be premier. Like, even with their zones with the wood walls, even
Mm-hmm.
if you've got that much width, oh, that would be hot money.
But see, and that's the thing too, because even like at our locals, like at Pitcairn and Monroeville, they do it where they let everybody, like if people have different ideas for stages, they'll be like, all right, well, we're going to give you bay three, which is the big long bay. You know what I mean? So your stage has to be a design works for that bay. Or, you know what I mean? Like, and it's beneficial sometimes, but it's even the same thing where some people will have designs where it's like, dude, we can't fit that in here. You know what I mean? Like, it's not going to work. Or, it's just, you have to work with the nature of the beast. You know what I mean? So I think overall, I like Cardinal. Like their three zones did have variety to them. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
Because I did hear some people say that Cardinal, like the first zone, felt almost like an indoor match, very straight ahead. But that's also kind of like positional shooting. You know what I mean? Like exit entries, efficiency of movement. So if you're better at shooting while moving, that wasn't going to play into your strengths. You know what I mean? Because you had to get to this spot, you had to get to this spot. But then the other zones, you had way more activators. Like zone one was heavily penalty targets, hard cover. The zone B or zone two was a lot more activators, a little bit more steel, a little bit closer stuff. Zone three had a harder, variables, a lot more field movement to them. You know what I mean? So all in all, I think it was for Cardinals' first match. I think they did great. Like there's always going to be constructive criticism. You know what I mean? I
Hmm.
don't care. You can't please everybody. You know what I mean? But if they take the constructive criticism and they run with it and they make it better, awesome. You know what I mean? I mean, it's a beautiful facility. It can only get better. At least I would hope. You know what I mean? It's
Hmm.
definitely one of the bigger plays. That shotgun trap shooting they have, I drove past that and I'm like, damn, they make us look kind of puny over here at the USPSA stuff.
Oh yeah, like that's where the real money's at. Like if
Yeah,
you want to think open guns are expensive, think about like super fancy Beretta shotguns that are like $10,000 to $12,000 for an over under or a side by side.
yeah,
Like God, like Infinity, get into the game of making shotguns. You'll
yeah.
make more
Real.
money.
I saw some of the campers that were down there. I was like, damn, man. Like some of those
Hmm.
RVs and campers they had. I'm like, this is definitely the sport. But some of the people I talked to, they said the traps and the skeet shooting was beautiful down there. So
Hmm.
I'd have to go down the next time and try.
Well, and I don't know if it was just adults shooting or if it was the kids shotgun shoot. I don't know if it was the shotgun SASP or if it was because I know this week as we're recording, they're finishing up SASP Steel Nationals or something.
Hmm. Yeah, there
So,
was a classic one.
mhm. Yeah, so that's kind of cool. Now, I do want to shift our conversation a little bit. I want to do talk about, you're somewhat involved with the section match coming up here in a little bit. I mean, or at least you're helping with what being a boot on the ground.
Yeah, I'm like groundskeeper Willie. I'm kind of where doing everything, either rebuilding walls or helping them get whatever they need. You know, what I mean, the props moved around, and cleaning up the landscaping, and just getting everything prepped that we can. We got a lot of cool things. He's got like a World's 2022 vibe.
Hmm.
We've got something steel and slider targets, and
Do they
uh,
have do they have cool like dioramas on the walls?
nah, we haven't. I haven't gotten that much time. I've been too busy building and repairing walls and stuff. I wanted to get like some palm trees in there. You know, what I mean, get some of the aesthetics. I told him I was like, we got to get the bull that they all sat on for that one stage. That would be kind of cool. But no, we got a slider swinger target that's on a steel ramp. That's a little bit more drastic than dragon stuff. I mean, you're going to get a probably a solid 180 degrees of good movement side to side. We've got roller
Mhm.
coaster steel. We got activators. I think there was possible talks of doing a cable slider, but I don't know if that was still going on or not. But there's definitely going to be some challenges that people haven't seen at other majors. You know what I mean? And it's
Mhm.
going to be a fun match so far. I've got to see some of the stages that they have lined up for it, and it's going to
Yeah.
be fun.
Now, is Bill helping? Is Bill running this match by committee, or is he pretty much, he designed all the stages, he's running all the admin kind of stuff, or
Bill's actually just Bill, the owner of Greater Pitt. Dave Durizio is actually in charge of a lot of stuff.
okay.
I know Greg Gombeck was also Bill is involved with a lot like on the groundwork, you know what I mean, making sure we're getting everything done. Um, but as for like the actual like match director, I believe that's Dave Durizio's job. And then but yes, there is like a committee group of people all involved. You know what I mean? Bill just kind of helps out wherever he's needed. You know, because he's more of a shooter than the match director, but he helps with whatever we need to get for it. And like I said, the sliding steel and the swinger targets and all the slider swinger, man, like we just having that this year, people are gonna look at that and be like, this is awesome. You know what I mean? 'Cause that's actually what got me on Dave's show was we were talking about the difference of the Dragon Cup swinger, to ours. I sent him a video of it, and I was like, yeah, man, this is gonna be our sectional, and then like we have the roller coaster steel that goes back and forth with. We have one cart that has a two steel setup on it, and then we have one that has three steel. I believe we're going to probably use the three steel one for it, and it runs off an activator. And then we've got multiple. I think there's going to be a Cooper tunnel as well. I know I've got a door prop built. Um, there's all kinds of fun that's going on this year. It's definitely going to be a match that people haven't seen before, but that's in a good way. I mean, with all the it's not going to be carnival like. It's going to be very challenging and technical. You know what I mean? But there are definitely going to be activators and swingers
Hmm.
pretty much on every stage.
Right now, so you put it out as this match is going to be a little more difficult, which it should be. I think major matches should be a little more
Mhm.
challenging than local matches, a little less challenging than area, and national should be like the hardest match you shoot unless you go to worlds.
Right, right.
Do you find that like your greater Pittsburgh gun club matches are level 2 plus stages? Like so you're getting used to shooting these harder, let me throw my air quotes people who are listening to the audio version, harder matches.
Yeah, we really like to give the major match feel. Like even our local matches, we really try to build challenging stages, and that's where Bill really gets involved. Like Dave will bring out all the match, like the stages that we have designed. And then as we start putting them on the ground, like we'll really start going over like, okay, let's make this a hardcover target. Let's make this a double stack partial. You know what I mean? Like, and it's a lot of people, you'd be amazed how like we set targets out at 25 yards. They're like, man, I've never shot this far in a match before. And it's like, cool. You know what I mean? And we always try to make it to where you're getting activators and swingers. And yeah, it's almost like a local or, like a tier two match at a local because a lot of people don't get to practice on swingers. You know what I mean? So like, if they get to see a swinger or a drop turn on the same stage, it's like, wow, this is really cool. And I can understand why a lot of clubs don't want to do it because that's a lot of setup work. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? And for us, like the action pistol bays, a lot of that stuff stays on those bays. So it's kind of like, all right, we're just gonna move this to this side. We're gonna take this over here. Whereas, other clubs, you rely on the volunteers. You know what I mean? So if you only got a handful of guys, it's really hard to be setting up a tier two style match if you only got a couple people. But if you can get a reliable group, you know what I mean? It does make it a lot easier. And we try to keep it to where it's not so crazy that we're getting like squads backing up. We also don't want it to be super discouraging, like for new shooters, like your DEC class. Or we want everybody to still have fun, but we also want you to experience like a great challenge, and we want it to be a little bit different than everybody else. Kind of give that a little bit of a talking point. You know what I mean?
Right. Well, you want the shooters to be able to separate themselves, right? So you want the GMs at the top, you want the M's fighting at below that, but
Hmm.
you still want everyone to have fun, but still give challenges for everybody to separate themselves from the pack.
Absolutely. Yeah, we try to keep it as a healthy balance as we can, so that way, we'll throw a couple little smaller stages in that feel like the hoser, fast moving stages, but then like bay seven, bay five or bigger stages, you're always going to see a big field course. You're always going to
Hmm.
see a slider swinger target and probably another swinger at the other side of it. It's really fun. Like we don't usually get people that are mad. You know what I mean? They're like, man, this is really fun. This is challenging. Or, it keeps you humble, but it also makes you go home hungry. Like, all right, cool. Yeah. And then like I say, it's a better mindset too. Like when you go there and you go, oh, I've shot something like this before. You go into that match going, okay, I know how at least kind of approach this or how to, where to shoot at or what I should be doing or where I should be focusing on. And,
Hmm.
it's just good to do. I mean, and some people, man, if they got to travel, what I mean, like when we go out to DSS in Ohio, it's what, 2 hours and 15 minutes, I think, but it's worth it every time. I mean,
Hmm.
Scott, every time you go out there, it's always 6 stages of just what feels like a small major. You know what I mean? And it's always well ran and always very challenging. And there's never been a time I've been out there where I haven't come home and been like, dude, it was a great match. I mean, it's awesome.
Hmm. Yeah, and that's honestly how I want to feel like that every time I go. You get better confidence in it. You shoot a
Mhm.
quote unquote hard match. You perform very well, but you still be able to find what you need to improve on, and it always makes you want to go back to the next one, right? Like when you shoot a good match at GPGC, you're like, all right, I'm ready for the next one. When's the Then you got to wait
Mhm.
another month or so, or another 2 weeks, or that's always the fun part. Is it kind of it scratches the itch that you have, but then you get the itch back.
Keep chasing the dragon's tail, as they say. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Where you're kind of, and that's what's nice about it because it, like around here, we got so many different locals that it's like, all right, last week I didn't shoot so well, but this week I'm going to go to East Huntington or I'm going to go to Monroeville or I'm going to go to Greater Pitt. And there's always like that. You can get a quick rebound and get back into the game and shoot the next week. And so if you've been working on something in dry fire all week that was an inefficiency last week, the next local, like you said, you hit the reloads perfect and it saves you time and it ends up getting you the win for your class or your division. And that's the fun of it. You know what I mean? Because when you do well, you want to get back out there. You want to keep riding that same pace. When you don't do well, you go home and you start to really focus on, what you got to do to get better. And it's like you said, you're scratching that itch either way. It's just realistically, what's the time delay in between match to match?
Right. Absolutely. And it's always that fun thing, and I love having that itch. You always want to go to the next one, but you also like to take a break because burnout is real, and a lot of people go through it.
I think a lot of people went through that after Nats, being how early it was in the year.
Hmm.
Like you have not like there's a lot of people now are like, all right, well, I don't shoot other divisions. What do I do? So it's kind of like I didn't get burned out. You know what I mean? Like I've been shooting locals. I've been kind of focusing on the sectional and helping them with everything now, but I wasn't burned out. Or I think a lot of people went to mats and maybe got humbled. You know what I mean? But when you got 500 of the best in the country, man, you know what I mean? It's really going to show the honest truth of where people stand percentage wise.
Hmm.
But
Yeah, absolutely. Now, we are getting near the end of our time today, but I do have a couple few more fast questions.
mhm.
So, who have been some people who have been like mentors and or supporters of you as you've come up in the sport?
uh, Initially, man, it was Tampa Timmy when I first got into it. He was a big help online. We were on the Mighty Armory team. Steve Anderson was a huge help in the beginning with the books and then the insider program, mental management. Locally, Mike Ford, Patches Reader, Ryan Schneider, Bill Drummond's been a big help as recent. And I feel like I'm gonna be a dick if I don't say everybody, but like it's just, dude, it's been. I've always met these great people through the process. Like, but realistically, yeah, like Big Mike's been a big help for me. Patches, Ryan Schneider was always preaching to me, be clean on steel. Um, you can always learn from everybody. I mean, dude, I learned one of the best tips about doing unloaded starts from a B class shooter when we were doing dry fire the one night.
Hmm.
Yeah, he's like, he's like, I just don't lift my feet and I could do them faster. I'm like, you know what, that's probably a good idea. And sure as shit, don't lift the feet or do anything before the mag hits the gun, and now it's unloads are there. But yeah, like there's been Steve Anderson's been there the whole time. Um, we've become pretty good friends. Like I said, I've taken his class, his advanced class, done mental management, part of the insider program. Um, they said recently, like in the past, what's almost a year now, Bill Drummond's been a huge help with Greater Pitt. Become kind of somewhat acquaintance friends with like Jay Beal and a few other people that have kind of helped out as well. But it's always the local squad, man, like Patches and Mike and all them. The guys you see me traveling with at majors, those have been the ones that have kind of took me in and never let me go.
Yeah, just long as Patches doesn't make you give him his kiss, right?
Yeah, yeah, but that's I mean you gotta have a great squad. You know what I mean? Like and that's what really helps because if we all call each other out on stuff, you know what I mean? It's never in a bad way. It's always like a to get better. You know what I mean? And that's a huge help. You know what I mean? When you got a solid crew around you, that's what makes you a better shooter, competitor in person.
Hmm. Oh yeah, 100%. Yeah, with the great squad comes great responsibility, yet great learning opportunities and fun.
Yeah, I mean, like I say, and it's cool now because like when I first got into it, man, I'm like, man, it'd be cool just to to shoot with some of these guys, and then like I got to know Andrew Hyder, and I've become pretty good friends with him now, and various other super squad guys, and like my first match I ever, one of the bigger ones was Area 8. I walked around with Chris Race and Kevin Garoffi and Wampler and all of them, and I told him I was like, dude, if I paint the steel, is it cool if I just walk around with you guys? You know what I mean? I'm not gonna bother you. I just want to watch and being, hey, we don't want to touch the paint cans or spray that or touch them. You're our guy. So pay those dues, as you say. But yeah, like I said, it's been fun, and I'm always willing to help people. You know what I mean? That's one thing that like I'm never gonna be somebody like if you come up to me on a stage and go, dude, you want to walk the stage with me, or like I'm never like, oh, no, no, dude. Like I'll always try to help because somebody did it for me. You know what I mean? There was a time when I was first getting into it and was just like you said, just a freshman, didn't know what the hell I was doing, and somebody's like, no, no, do this. And it definitely helps. That's what helps build the sport. Like you said, it's when people are having fun, we're all here to get better. It's healthy competition, and it is. It's just a great core group of people around here.
Yeah, absolutely. And I can't think enough for most of the people, the people you meet in the sport are the salt of the earth. They're good to you. They just want everyone to be on the same playing field and get better, which is can't ask for anything more than that.
Dude, no joke. At Buckeye Blast, I actually left my passenger side truck door open And one of the local guys, Roger Elder, came up to me. He's like, "Just want to let you know I shut your door for you and locked it." I'm like, "Oh, thank God." So it's like, and it was cool because it's like you said, like there were so many people there. Nothing was even bothered in my truck or anything. You know what I mean? Like it's always just it's a great group of people. You know what I mean? You never have to worry about anything. Like I've seen so many times where people's guns break or something, or they're having issues and people are over there trying to help or offering backups or stuff like that. I mean, that's what got me into the sport was shooting somebody's backup. You know
Hmm.
what I mean? Like I didn't have the gear, right? Like I mean, I didn't have the X amount of thousands of dollars to just go and be like, yeah, I'm gonna try this, and if I don't like it, well. But somebody had a backup whole setup, you know what I mean, the holster and everything, and that's what gets people into the sport. You know what I mean? That's what I've always tried to really remember.
Right. And that's all you can hope, you can ask for too is, you get the same thing out as somebody gave to you, and that's all we can ask for. Now, Drew, do you have any sponsors that you want to plug or need or have to?
I'm not really sponsored per se, but I mean, I'd like Greater Pittsburgh Gun Club's been a huge help. So I guess like they've helped me with, I guess you could say they're kind of like a sponsorship per se. But Dan from D2 Custom Guns, I mean, dude does awesome work. Always cares about his product. Um,
He needs to
big,
stop leaving all his business cards everywhere, though, on every stage.
I told him that I was like, dude, you're gonna get hit with a littering fine, man.
It's like I always know when Dan or Patches has been somewhere because it's like I wouldn't want to pay for all those business cards. By the way,
I know it's like two Tasmanian devils walking around sometimes, but Dan's an awesome dude, man. Like he really cares about his work. He shoots, he stands by his stuff. Uh, awesome turnaround time, and still doesn't sacrifice quality control. Um, like Ron Kiesel from Sigma Artworks, he's the guy that's responsible for all our awesome swingers that'll be at the sectional this year. If anybody wants to check him out, he's got a website. Anderson Shooting, I'd like to thank Steve just for being one of the guys that really helped me out, and still does. And he's been a big help to the sport. Brian Conley's another dude I'd like to say thank you to because he does so much for our sport. And dude, we need a Hall of Fame. You know what I mean? Like a USPSA Hall of Fame because there's certain titans of the sport that help. You know what I mean? That aren't even shooters that sometimes don't get like the. I mean, they get recognition. You know what I mean? But still, it's a huge thing like that. But yeah, I mean I think that's really it. I mean all the local squad that's helped me out and got me to this point of being on podcast.
right? Exactly. And we can't. If we listed everybody, it'd be the longest.
I mean, I'd have a scroll. I'd be standing back like this trying to hold them off.
Exactly, yeah, and I agree with you on that. But Drew, where if people want to get a hold of you and talk to you about shooting or whatever, where's the best way to reach you?
Facebook, Instagram. Just look up Drew Maruski on Instagram. It's just Drew underscore Maruski. Uh, just give me a direct message. I'm always at Greater Pittsburgh. I'm always there helping out or practicing. Uh, those are usually the two easiest ways. I mean, you can get hold of me by email at drewmaruski7@gmail.com. And those would be probably the three easiest ways to get a hold of me. Be
Hmm.
stuff like that. But yeah, man, anybody wants to get a hold of me, just hit me up. I'm always available.
Right on. Well, Drew, brother, thank you for coming on. I've had a blast. We've talked a lot about a lot, and I think people are going to get a lot out of this one. I did too. Personally, just
Awesome.
talking and having fun because we know so many of the same people. And we give each other shit for it, but it's all good. So,
Yeah.
brother, thanks for coming on. And to the listeners, get out and do the things. And I will see you on the next one.